all. This is Mubin Sayed, and the cafe is open. Let's have our discussions. Um, I was seeing in the um, comments here. Number one, there's a super chat as well. Thank you very much, James. Number one, yes, we'll do art today. Number two, I was not on Rumble. Rumble had made me a little upset, although recently I checked the video theft that I reported to them, and those videos were taken down. So I will reconsider Rumble and start putting it over there as well. The Odyssey video, I did not know it was buffering so much. Odyssey platform still needs some more polish. Uh, I replayed the video afterwards and it seems to be playing fine. So it is just the live part of their platform is not as robust. The question that I have for the folks here is, do you think it was controversial? If not, do you think I can put it up on YouTube? So that is a question for you. And there was a other discussion that I saw was happening as well, that we all knew it or we did not know it. The adenovirus-based vaccines, right from December, we knew that this happens, although this is unfair to say that we just knew it and we decided to take that risk. I was looking at the original trial document. And in that document, they said it's actually not known that if it will be more than the background or not. Similarly, we also saw for the other trial vaccines as well, they said it's going to be the same as the background. So it is not that we did not know that it will, it's not that we knew that there'll be 10 or 160 times more cases and people would die, and it was disclosed to us if we did not know. And I would not expect people to just generally know this. So that is one. Secondly, let's say that we all knew. FDA knew, we knew, and we took the risk knowingly. Then why to take it out now? Leave it. We all know it. And if the message is that at that time, there were not enough options, and so it was okay to take this risk and let some people be in this state, or some people die while protecting a lot more, then that I think should have been put that way instead of saying nothing. So I would actually suggest to you to look at the trial document to see what did they disclose there. So anyways, this is where we are at. They can say now that, hey, we are stopping this because there are other options. I actually think we are primarily, majority of the country, at least the US, is either excuse me, vaccinated or vaccinated and infected previously. And if we are saying that Omicron, and I'm going to present that study next week, if we are saying that Omicron is actually equally lethal and transmissible, more transmissible, equally lethal, and it is not doing that because we have developed immunity, then that means herd immunity is working. And if that is working, then we should acknowledge that too. So with this, let's do some drawing. The Rima has a good question. It's controversial but important. Is there a way to prevent YouTube bots from triggering an audit by YouTube? No. What happens is YouTube's process is that when you upload something, they would create a transcript by AI. Once they have done the transcript, then their other processes will go over the transcript and try to figure out if there is a violation. If there is a violation, they can create a self trigger of marking the video, and then people can come in and mark as well. So that is how they work. So Anne says that when they first paused, then started again, were they saying the risk was not as bad as the risk from COVID? I think that at that time they said the risk benefit favors taking the risk because the benefit is more. I think that, and this discussion I did many, many times, that for women under 50, this vaccine did not make sense. They should have simply said it. I actually remember even lamenting once that in CNN there was a news where the representative of CDC or FDA had said, we resumed it, although we know the other risks, but it would have become too complicated to communicate. So they said, all right, take a hit in terms of some people dying, but keep the communication simple. My position had been since December of 2020 that if we acknowledge it and if we provide the protocol for how to manage it, then that would have been great. Okay, so Barbara is here. Hello, Barbara. How are you? How dare they decide the risk benefit for us? Well, they did. And the interesting thing is that, of course, they can say now that, well, the benefit is not much, so risk is more now, so we're stopping it. Fine. However, in my opinion, this data should have been clarified even today in their news. They cannot assume that you just know that for women age 30 to 40, the risk is 10.9 cases per million versus what they're writing of 3.23 per million. I don't believe that they are not writing the most at-risk group just because they know that that group knows. That's not correct. So Rima says, let's come up with the equivalent code words in Punjabi. I'm going to go back and watch our videos on J&J Vax from way back when. Absolutely. I had been talking about Oxford AstraZeneca's context. In the beginning, 2020 December, I know it so clearly because there were a couple of women who became very upset. One was from UK and one from US. And they would send me threats to say that you are making people nervous about it. So because of that, I remember this. Then when I discussed German scientists' discussion of how the platelet activating factor or platelet factor 4 is impacted and clotting starts, then, excuse me, I had the pushback that I'm taking Germany's side because the vaccine is UK vaccine. That was adenovirus-based vaccine as well. So there were all kind of misinterpretations and punishing me for presenting these things. Okay, so with this, the message is very simple. We knew it or we did not. They knew it. They should have simply said, women under 50, this is not a vaccine for you. Finish. So meanwhile, in America says, what would be the management for pituitary effect? So there are many ways to handle that. For example, one is to simply do the workup to figure out, is it progressing towards normalcy or not? If it is, then just leave it and start becoming normal. Meanwhile, provide the patient support. For example, if they are getting tachycardia spells because the fluid volumes are not correct, then provide that. If salt is needed, provide that. If they need to have stocking or such things to keep their blood pressure corrected, provide that. Or when they sit up, or when they stand up. So, so symptomatic support till they recover. And the other possibility is if there is a permanent damage, then figure that out. And then there are replacement therapies. Hormone replacement therapies have their own side effects as well. It's not a very simple, straightforward thing that, all right, you don't have this hormone, I'm going to give you this hormone. Although sometimes it is necessary in cases of cortisol and thyroid, for example. So it depends what is the situation, how the progress is being made by the patient, and then the therapies. Symptomatic, no therapy, symptomatic to replacement. Saraswati says, Dr. Bean for president. Thank you. Denise says that I wear leggings for parts. Yes. Elquin says, Dr. Mo Beats shooting out the straight facts. Yes. It was. So I totally understand that they would say the risk benefit tells us to stop now. What made me angry was that fine, the risk benefit says this vaccine is probably not needed anymore. Then at least make it clear to the women who are getting the most impact. Tell them to stop, don't take it. They were still hedging. That was disingenuous to say 3.23 per million. Okay, so shall we draw some things? I wanted to draw today a king bean or try to draw a king bean. So Skyfrog says, I have all the symptoms of long COVID for at least 5 years now. Good one, Skyfrog. So this is, John, I'm totally fine with the idea that we knew it. I was talking about that as well. But let's just take the latest news. In that news, I would have insisted that they make women aware and say, this is not for you. It would have been one more sentence. They didn't do it. They didn't even provide the numbers for them. They could have said, overall, 3.23 per million. However, this just one sentence added. However, 70% of the cases were in women, especially 30 to 40 years of age, in which the cases were 10.9 or whatever number was, 10.9 per million. That would have added so much clarity. And if the idea is that we all just knew it, then why to do this news as well? Then just say, hey guys, you know about Johnson and Johnson. Okay, so ready for the Margaret says, I'm fine, Robin. Worried that Dr. Bean will be a martyr without reaching the largest numbers of potential female and male victims. We'll see. I think I'll be okay on Odyssey. So Paul says, let's draw. So let's draw. Share my screen. And we start drawing. So I have not practiced this drawing before. So we all are going to get frustrated together. That is the point of this drawing lesson, is to just kind of struggle and try to do something that makes a brain active. So great video yesterday. Just two questions in yesterday's discussion. The diagnosis and treatment of Dr. Wood Bruce work, Dr. Bruce Patterson work, and could we include pituitary microadenoma in yesterday's discussion? Pituitary microadenomas could, depending upon their how big they are, how many they are, how much um, damage they've done, how early or late. So they may have no effect in the beginning, or they may have more effect later on. Now, Dr. Patterson's discussion, the question is, what is the pathology for this? And if it is hypophysiitis, or if it is immune dysregulation or inflammatory molecules, depending upon that, we would have a solution. I feel that Dr. Patterson's focus on Moravirog, because that is his patented drug, that probably has taken his solution away from another additional number of pathologies. So if the pathology is related to that kind of immune dysregulation that Moravirog addresses, then sure. But if the pathology is a different pathology, then it will not work. So I cannot generalize it. Okay, so let's start. As always, I would love to create a little horizon first. So here is a horizon. Now I'll take some part out because I want to make a thing here. Now, ideally, whatever we make, horizon is really eye line. So anything above this would actually, imagine we are here. This is us, right? And for us, anything that is above the horizon line is kind of in the sky. And if something is like this, then it is a really big thing, or real close to us. So still, I'm going to break that rule of just using horizon line as an eye level. Let's do this. I'm going to create, let's say we are actually standing higher above, so we can see this little character from above. So that is one. So we made a tiny cylinder. To make the cylinder, what you do is this. Instead of making a rounded circle and another rounded circle, make an oval and another oval, and then connect them. Right? So Anne says, I love the subtractive technique. So thank you, Anne. So to make a cylinder, do this. Then slowly you can become proficient enough to just make this one curve underneath. Excuse me. I was actually fine. I just started having cough. So the curve, important thing is the following. So if you make, let's say this is the top, and then if you make a straight line and you connect them, this does not give an idea of a cylinder. This may be a cylinder that is stuck in sand. So down here somewhere is the remaining part, and we cannot see it. But if we just make a straight line, then it will not look like a correct cylinder. And I think that is one of the most common mistake that we do, is to have an oval up here and then a straight line. That's one. Second, it really depends where is the eye line, and then things above that and things below that and things at the level. So if I actually take this all out for a second, I'm breaking another rule of not making horizon in the middle, but let's say the horizon is here. That means we are able to look at everything at this level, and everything above this level, we will not be able to look at their upper surfaces. We cannot see here. This is just like if you're standing in front of your house, you're on the ground, you cannot see what's above or on the roof, other than if the roof is slanting and you can see that. But if it is a flat roof, you cannot see what's above that. Or similarly, anything that is taller than you cannot see the upper part, upper surface of that thing. That is the same rule here. So imagine if we have a cylinder, if you're standing here, let's say here, so make this. So let's say if you're standing here and looking the other way. To look the other way, look at almost as like magic. Create a gap between the head and the body. Why does it look like you are looking towards the person if there is no gap? The reason is our chin. When we are coming towards someone, or when we are facing someone, then if you look at me, the on the front, the chin is covered, although I may have a double chin, but on the front, the chin covers the neck. So it looks like the front looks like more connected with the body compared to the back. This is why if you create a gap between the head and the body, then it looks like this person is looking the other way. And if you do not create a gap between the head and the body, then it looks like the person is looking your way, because you are able to see, the brain perceives their chin. That means you're looking at their face. And that means they're facing you. So back here, imagine you are here. This is the horizon line. And we have something that is above the horizon line, floating in the air. Let's say a tiny cylinder. If that is the case, of course, you cannot see the upper surface of it. So all you do is you make a curve, upwards curve. So curve could be downwards as well, but an upwards curve. And you make a line. And now it depends what is the height of this thing. If it is all above the horizon, then you could, and you are able to see the underneath of it, then you also make another curve upwards and complete it this way. So now you are able to see the lower surface of this floaty thing. If another brethren, another cousin of this shape is on the ground, then it is possible that you can see the upper part of the shape. This is, imagine a cylinder is present on the floor. And then if you put these lines, make the lines, now the lower part, until it is stuck in the ground, if it is on the ground and everything is level, then the lower part is going to look like this. So you cannot see underneath, but you can see now above. There may be a possibility that that thing is right square in front of you. If that is the case, let's say here, you may not be able to see the top or the bottom because it is just so flush with your eye level. Right? So this is an important thing to consider when you are going to draw something, that compared to your eye level, where is that that thing, and is it above the eye level and below the eye level, all of it below the eye level, all of it above the eye level, and so on. So now let's say we want to make that cylinder with a king like hat on it. So we have to decide where is it located. So I'm going to make it on this side, and let's say part of it is above, part of it is below. if that is the case, we cannot see the upper surface or the lower surface of it, right? Because it is at the horizon line, some part above, some part below. Now, let's give this thing a couple of legs. So very simple, one leg, other leg. So these are legs. And then let's make shoes or feet. So really, normally for my diagrams, feet are really just two triangles. One can make more elaborate feet if you would like to do something like this. So let's say I want to make a foot that is more elaborate. So really what I'm making is a box for a foot, just to give myself a little structure to work with. And if you see here, I've made the back part of this box smaller and the front part bigger. That is again perspective. That things that are closer to us would look bigger and the things that are away from us would look smaller. Now in here, I can make a foot by doing something like this. I can make a foot by doing something like this. And then correcting this box. Right? Now, important thing here, because we are at the level higher than the foot, we can see the upper surface of the foot. You will not make the same foot in the same way everywhere. It depends where the foot is. If it is below us, then we would see the upper surface. On the other hand, if the foot is above us, and you would not see, if it is flush with the eyes, then you would see the side only. If it is above the eyes, then you would see the lower part of it. For example, if there is a character that is doing some sort of martial, what is that? Martial arts, and like this, right? So now the feet are above us. This guy is kind of floating in the air as well. And you could probably see the underneath of the feet, right? DDS is hairy toes. So it really depends where that thing is. And that is the most important part for this. What is that? Let me take this comment out. For the illusion of 3D. All right, so back here, this foot here, I'm going to make, I usually just make 2 or 3 toes, or 4 at most. So here I'm just going to make 3. Okay, so now we have 2 feet. We could make more feet as well. So let's say 1 more foot over here, but that's not the point. Just 2 are sufficient. So that much is done, right? So we have a cylinder-like thing that has 2 feet. Let's now make a crown on it. I have to take this guy out. He was having fun flying up there. Okay, so now we're going to make a crown. Crown can actually be made very simply. Here is another cylinder that is sitting on top of this cylinder. Alquin says more feet. Okay, we'll make more feet in a few minutes. Denise says I want to watch the Odyssey video. Okay, so here is another cylinder. Right now, what we do is we take the top of the cylinder and use this to create this kind of a structure. Good. Meeple art is here. Meeple, you are the art. So uh, apologies if it looks weird. I'm not an art teacher. So now that you have these little pokes of the crown, then you take the things that are between them away. And it may have been interesting to kind of make these little conical things. And now maybe in the back, there are also some, the back parts of the crown that we can see. And then make these rounded things on top of the cones. And these are kind of the jewels. You can connect them as well. I like to just keep them floating in the air. It kind of creates a more comical thing. Good. Skyfrog says, looking more like the machine in Chronos. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an eye here and another eye over here and a big smile. Correct. Now the question is, where are the hands? So I'm just going to cheat and make a little about like this, and hands are really just rounded things. I create a little flavor by creating this and then this, so kind of a thumb there. Canned king bean. Okay, so now Meeple Art says you're drawing my strangest dream. Well, here we go. So now let's give it a little bit of a shadows as well. So imagine if the light is coming from this side. If that is the case, I'm going to give it shadow without. So for me, it is just easy to do something like this and this. And we have, let's say, shadows. But instead of doing that, because then you need to have this marker type thing, I'm going to do the shadows with the pencil. So once again, the rule is the same. I'm just going to have to do something like this. And you can do cross hatching like this. And you can. Right, so that is one side. Then here, the foot, this side is in the shadow. And let's say the shadow extends. So that is the shadow of the foot. The other foot, we just have to make sure that the shadows are kind of in the similar plane and direction. And then here, this is the other foot. And now for the crown, this shadow, the back, those little pokey things on the back, like this, and similarly shadows on these jewels. And voila. Actually, this hand should have shadows, this hand should have shadows, and done. So now we have a king. Keeney says, I'm increasing my LTN dose tonight. Coupled with my melatonin, I'm going to have sci-fi chronos dreams or dream about spam and s'mores. Good night, everyone. I'm going to try to sleep. Doug, good night, and I hope you are feeling better. Cheryl says, great perspective, doctor. Thank you very much. Okay, so Saraswati said, this is like a crazy trip. Well, isn't this fun? So here we have Path says, being a doctor is all about learning medicine from treating people and end up using them on your own. Interesting. Meeple Heart says is a very cute king. Is he you? Possibly the bean king. So if it was a bean king, if we make that, let's say, okay, so before I make the bean king, one more thing. We can make these characters with 3 types of shapes and try them. One is squarish shapes. So if you draw with me, let's say this is a character that is squarish in shape. Normally, square shapes give the feeling that I want to make his feet square as well, give the feeling of strength and stability in that, and stubbornness, right? So square shapes make things look strong, stable, stubborn, powerful. This is why you would actually see many of the cartoon characters are the one that are badass. They are square looking. And here, this is bothering me. So square, right? Now, if I make things with rounded shapes, then that would look very cute. So let's say here is a rounded head, then here is the rounded body. Maybe a couple of these things too, and this, and ground that thing, put them on horizon as well. And all of a sudden, we have a rounded thing. Rounded things are cute, right? Then if you use triangles, let's say triangular shapes, normally look the character sharp, fast, wicked, dangerous. So that is the triangular shapes. Although this triangular shape looks very less dangerous, but that is what triangular shapes do. My lack of art expertise is obstructing my communication of the triangular shapes impact. So you would see a lot of triangular shapes for dangerous things or villains. Villains, you would see a lot of them will be very triangular in their appearance. And that will be because triangular shapes look dangerous. They look pokey to us. They look dangerous to us. So, so if you go back to this one, this is mostly rounded. And because of that, this would look like cute thing. And if you wanted to make more cute things, you will just make more rounded shape structures. Now you could create combinations as well in these characters. You could have a character that is, let's say, rounded, But then let's see what happens if I make the body triangular. There is a, tell me this, do you not feel that there is a um, association between the two perceptions here? This makes you look like this makes you look like something sharp, fast, and this looks like something kind of slow and cute. But you could create compositions as well with various shape structures or shape types to create um, a more emotionally different kind of character. So Bob Chanel says space aliens getting off of the spaceship to get us would be triangular. They have to have big eyes and an oval head, though. Correct. So you could actually make something like this. So let's say if I make something. So this is a space alien. It doesn't have any arms. We have to take away something from them so they don't hurt us. And here we are. We're saying hello. So here we are. There you go. We come in peace. So how should we make peace? They don't have hands. All right, let's make them hands. So again, my request will be to try these things. The idea is once again that we're not sitting to make um, hugely beautiful characters, but instead it is just an exercise to kind of exercise our brains. Usually triangular characters, because they're sharp and kind of dangerous, they have more red color used in them as well. The cute characters have more bluish or other colors, lighter colors. But usually these guys, the triangular guys, have a bunch of red in them. So now they have colors as well. There you go. Johnson says green. So green is an interesting color that I use very less. So let's put green here. So the beautiful most color to use and to try to use and most difficult to use is orange. Green is kind of an interesting color. I have very less use for green. Orange is very interesting. And then red and blue and black are just simple, straightforward. Bay Areas Aquarius says, I love Astro Dude, Termite, and King Bean. So this one here, and then this one. I also like to draw sometimes just little figures. So, for example, let's say here is a figure. Just sitting and chilling. And let's say there is another figure, just stick figures, saying, what you doing? Why are you sitting here? And then another tiny stick figure or child figure, and so on. So I usually like to draw these. You may have seen in some of my talks, I like to draw stick figures as well. John Snyder says green is an awesome color. Yes, I just do not have good use for it. It doesn't go very well for various things. Yes. So, how are the damaged RBCs broken down in spleen? Very good question. So, let's actually answer that. That is Guy Telfer's question. So, if I go here with the permission from the KoolBeens, if we can draw this. So, what happens is, imagine our spleen. So, blood vessels that come in it, let's say here is a blood vessel. When they come in, they start breaking apart into smaller capillaries or smaller and smaller blood vessels till they become capillaries. Now, these capillaries then break down into sinusoids. So imagine in the spleen, there are barriers. There are barriers like this. Right? So let me color them. This is a wall. This is another wall. This is another wall. And between the walls are these tiny slits. Good. Now, this is a huge testing center for the flexibility and the shape of the cells. I don't know if you're aware that within our system, the cells, especially RBCs, we want to have very fit cells. We don't want out of shape cells. We want them to be fit. We want them to be flexible. In these sinusoids or around these sinusoids are sitting macrophages. I wanted to make them dangerous, but rounded things are usually not dangerous. So let's say macrophages. Right? So these are spleen macrophages. There are tons of them. Spleen is full of these macrophages. And they're sitting next to these sinusoids. Now what happens is, if I can remove this blood vessel just for clarity. So what happens is, an RBC has to arrive in the spleen with every circulation. Here is the RBC. It would arrive here, and its job is to pass through this sinusoid, this kind of slit in the sinusoid. So RBC is going to squeeze through this and kind of come out on the other end. Now, to squeeze through this and to come out on the other end, the RBC has to be really, really flexible. It has to be able to change its shape. And why do we want to test the poor RBC in this harsh way? The reason is that the RBC's job is to pass through small capillaries as well. And it is actually bigger than the capillary diameter. So RBC has to kind of flex, become bent to pass through the capillaries. And as it becomes bent and stuck in the capillary and slowly moves through that, it helps keep the pressure or build the pressure behind the RBC. This is just like in a queue, one person is moving slow and everybody else behind that person is kind of pushing on it. And that would create pressure. That pressure allows the capillaries one end to allow the nutrients to move out under that pressure by filtration. If RBCs are smaller, they would just zip through the capillary and they would not create enough pressure. So enough nutrients will not filter out because there is not much pressure. So because of that, we have to make sure. On the other hand, imagine if the RBC is not flexible. It's big, not flexible, got stuck in the capillary. Now the capillary is going to become blocked and a small microscopic clot will appear there. And the blood supply to that local tissue, microscopic part, will be affected. So for these reasons, it is important to test the RBCs in spleen with every single cycle. So what happens is RBC arrive, they pass through this. If they pass through it, they are allowed to go further. If they get stuck, then these macrophages would come in and they would take big bite out of the RBC. Sometimes they can just eat it up and destroy it. Then your question will become, so that is how we recycle RBCs that are older. The question then becomes that why would an RBC get stuck over here that was actually working correctly before? So young RBCs are flexible. In every cell inside, there are microtubular structures that make cells infrastructure or skeleton. Just like we have bones, cells have microtubules in them that make their bony structure. But that microtubular system has to allow enough flexibility in the RBC. With time, as the RBCs age, their normal age is about 90 days. As they age, their microtubular system, after aging, does not work correctly. It becomes kind of little crotchety, little rigid. And so when this rigid RBC tries to pass through this sinusoid, the slit here, it cannot pass through correctly because it cannot change its shape to squeeze through it. That is the RBC that gets caught by the macrophages and they remove it. They remove it, they cycle, they bring out the bilirubins and iron, and that is recycled and to make more RBCs. So that is the answer to how the RBCs are cycled. RBCs can be broken down by other things as well. If you're just clapping, you're breaking some RBCs. If you're running, you're breaking RBCs. But these are the normal lifespan of RBC. RBC ends up in a normal way, always eaten up by a macrophage. So the poor RBC knows my life is going to be ending up that way. Now there are RBCs, for example, sickle cell RBCs. They have those crystals in them that make them not have their shape change correctly. They get destroyed in the spleen all the time. In that process, even the spleen itself starts getting destroyed as well. And so many people with the sickle cell have the spleens that become asplenic. The spleen becomes damaged with those crystals again and again till the spleen becomes the size of a thumb after becoming fibrosed. And the RBCs are recycled in them very fast. So their RBCs age maybe one month or 20 days or 25 days and so on. So hope that answers that question, Guy. Okay, so with this, let's have a couple of questions and then we will prepare to stop. So Ramnik says, interesting, they say RBC's concave shape gives it more surface area. If it had been convex, then books would have said convex surface gives it more surface area. Yeah, so its surface area is because of the way its shape is. So John Snyder says, is it paint or caterpillar? So this is an RBC. Are you talking about this guy? This one? Let's make him sit down. So there you go. This RBC is trying to trying to get out through this. Okay, so thank you very much. Please give me this comment whenever you get a chance. So Skyfrog says, I would like to see a picture of a lighthouse, something I failed terribly at a class. Let's make that. Lighthouse is going to be easy to make. So I don't know. So here, see the upper part is going to curve upwards because we cannot see it. And lower part, it is on the ground. That will be this way. Then there may be a door here, maybe a tiny window here. Then at the top, let's say, I don't know what is the lighthouse's top design, but let's say something like this, in which there are these slits through which the light inside would shine. And then the lighthouse would have some bricks like this. And we got a lighthouse. At least that's my lighthouse. Some shadow. And there we go. Next time we can make, next to the lighthouse, we can make a sea as well. Maybe for some extra measure, we can make light coming out like this. Let's do it this way. Okay, so now we have a lighthouse. Margaret says, thank you so much, Dr. Bean and KoolBeens. Wishing everyone happy, safe weekend. Absolutely. Skyfrog says, better than mine. Just tiny bit. All right, cool. So with this, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you will try these. The point is, once again, not to make super awesome art, but to kind of challenge your brain. I love these three guys standing here having fun while the others are just posing. So with this, links in the description, and I would see you on Monday. One request, tell me if the Odyssey video should go on YouTube or not. Paul Borg says, please post your art on Discord, like, please. Absolutely. So like the video and art on Discord. Dr. Bean, Keeney says, Dr. Bean has to keep this cast of characters. Love them all. Thank you very much. Okay. Bye-bye. Nice weekend. Paul Borg says, not on YouTube is my vote. Okay. Done. Bye-bye.